intention to have a rest. They wanted the eyes to remain constantly open. So, so this description is given in the verse that we read today. And it's Srila Sukadev Goswami who's talking, describing the gopis. So this is the moment when the gopis are seeing Krishna after a long time period of separation because he'd gone to Mathura. So finally, he's returned and he's seeing them. So Srila Sukadev Goswami, he in fact is revealing the highest truth, as Srila Prabhupada puts it. So, and this is seen in this phrase, you'll notice it there, Gopyas Cha. And the word cha means and carries the meaning of the word to, which is but, to distinguish the special position of the gopis from others. So they're in their own category. There's nobody in that category of the gopis. And this is analyzed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Sarata Darshani, where he comments on this particular text. And he raises this question. So this is the question raised by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in relation to the gopis. Who are these gopis? So that's the question he asks. Who are these gopis? Because you hear of them as a category of persons. And there's Krishna living as in the royal order in Mathura with his 16,108 queens. And suddenly he's returned and there's this group of young women, the gopis, and they're exhibiting some extraordinary symptoms. And actually the question is asked, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who are these gopis? So, because it's a very illustrious meeting, particularly to do with the constellation change at that particular moment in time. So finally, there's a meeting of the residents of Vrindavan with those from Mathura. So it's a very unusual moment in time. So in response to this question of who are the gopis, there's one extraordinary quality that's been described by Srila Sukadev Goswami, which echoes this distinguishing characteristic that's highlighted by Srila Prabhupada, this particular thing that they do not want their eyes to have this impediment, this lid that allows for a momentary blocking of the vision of Lord Krishna. So the Vraja Gopis were the ones who cursed the creator Brahma for making eyelids. So that's their distinguishing characteristic, which obstructed their vision of Krishna. So the logic of Srila Sukadev Goswami becomes evident. So this is how he puts it. Though as woman, this is him drawing attention, I take it that the underlying assumption is that women are generally respectful on a religious level, because he says, though as women, the gopis ordinarily would have shown the highest respect to any demigod. But under the impulse of ecstatic love, they even curse the chief of all the demigods. So it's like going against a natural instinct. If the underlying is assumption that women are generally very respectful on a religious level, so being respectful to demigods, being respectful to Krishna, so I mean that's the underlying implication one could take it. Here they actually are cursing Lord Brahma, the chief of the demigods. So the point is that they were intolerant of their separation from seeing Krishna. So that's just repeating perhaps this important point and adding a little bit to it, that that's the distinguishing characteristic of the gopis. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he analyzes this statement on the part of Sukadev Goswami. And he says this: Sukadev Goswami gives vent to his own subtle jealousy of the gopis, to whom Krishna had bestowed intense feelings of separation. So that's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comment, because their position is so exclusive and so extraordinary and inimitable that, in fact, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that just by overemphasizing this characteristic of the gopis, it's actually also, in some sense, giving insight that Srila Sukadev Goswami is slightly jealous of their position and their intense feelings of separation from Krishna. So now these same feelings of separation are expressed to Uddhava when he visits Vrindavan. So we're backtracking. So here it is, that moment of meeting or seeing Krishna again, literally having him within their vision, like personally present. And now we're going to go back a while where they're in Vrindavan, they're feeling this intense separation from Krishna, because we've heard that's their distinguishing characteristic, having this intense separation from Krishna. And there's a moment in time when Krishna is sending Uddhava to Vrindavan to actually try and pacify them in this state of intense separation. So these same feelings of separation are expressed to Uddhava when he visits Vrindavan. And this is what the gopis say to Uddhava. Jai Kishore Kishori, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, Gauri Nitai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here are their words. Oh, Uddhava, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs and his friends, the cowherd boys? Great soul, does he ever talk about us? His maidservants? When will he lay on our heads his guru-centered hand? This is how they express themselves to Uddhava. It's from the 47th chapter of the 10th canto. And Srila Vishwanath, he states a particular thought of one of the gopis, the most prominent gopi, Radha. Jai Kishore Kishori, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, Gauri Nitai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And this is a chief gopi expressing her thought. Oh, in my madness, I have been talking, but I did not ask the questions I should have. Because there'd been a whole section where the chief gopi, Srimati Radharani, had been having a dialogue with a bee. And now she's in front of Uddhava, and this is a thought she's having. In my madness, I've been talking, but I did not ask the questions I should have. She's hearing the other gopis ask the question. These three questions. Is Krishna remembering his father's household affairs? Does he remember his cowherd boyfriends? Does he remember his maidservants, the gopis? And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he actually explains that Srimati Radharani feels remorse when she actually speaks these words. So there's a certain remorse in, it said, the gopis expressing these words, Srimati Radharani being included. So is the noble son of Nanda Maharaj now in Mathura? So it's a simple inquiry. But when one understands that it's coming from a place in the heart where there's a feeling of great separation, it just sounds like a very neutral statement. Is the noble son of Nanda Maharaj now in Mathura. So just as Krishna left Vraja, will he also leave Mathura? It's like when somebody's in a very deep emotional state, but they're asking very neutral questions that almost as though they're distant from the questions they're asking. So it seems natural to say, well, if he left Vraja, is he also going to leave Mathura? And Srila Vishwanath notes that Srimati Radharani did not ask if Krishna was happy there in Mathura. So notice that the questions are separated almost from the very intense feeling of separation that's there. But she simply asks if he's there. Or the gopis ask that, is he there in Mathura? So it's like, when you're caught in an emotional state, logically you express something, but there's a certain distance from what's been expressed because the focus is on the emotional state. So there's a breakdown of the mood at that time. So the mood, just by these questions that were asked, and it's put that the gopis were asking the question, but Srila Vishwanath's taken it that it's like Srimati Radharani's voice. So this is the breakdown, that there's a simplicity that's shown, because the statement is, it's regrettable that Krishna is residing in Mathura. So there's a certain simplicity. You understand? He's there. So simply asking, is he still residing in Mathura? So simplicity. There's a showing of gravity by asking the question of whether Krishna remembers his father's household affairs. It's a very grave question. Like, if one's casually meeting someone, one may say, like, let's say, if I'm distant from the place of my birth and I'm asking some question about persons that reside there, then I may actually be a little bit grave because I understand that I'm very distant from that place. So there's a gravity that's been shown by asking the question of whether Krishna remembers his father's household affairs and his friends, the cowherd boys. But notice, there's no mention of herself or the gopis mentioning themselves. Nothing. It's just very neutral questions. And Srila Vishwanath brings up another emotion that's there, or an underlying emotion, is that there's humility, eagerness, and unsteadiness. So those are the particular emotions that are being visible through the way the questions are asked. So does he ever talk about us, his maidservants? So there's humility, not making themselves prominent, bringing up something in advance of asking about themselves. There's an eagerness. Does he ever talk about us, his maidservants? And an unsteadiness, because there's uncertainty and it's like a very sensitive area. And then the next thing is, when will he lay his hands on our heads? He's a guru-centered hand. So this particular analysis is supported. It's given in Ujvala Nilamani. And this is what Ujvala Nilamani states, quote, when out of honesty, honest sincerity, a lover inquires about Shri Hari with gravity, humility, unsteadiness, and intense eagerness, such speech is known as sujalpa. So there's a term for how that embodies this kind of questioning on the part of the gopis and Srimati Radharani. It's known as sujalpa. There's gravity, there's humility, there's unsteadiness, but there's also intense eagerness. So sujalpa. It's from Ujvala Nilamani. So returning to the present moment that this verse is dealing with, Srila Prabhupada explains it this way, and this is in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, I just took us back to that time in Vrindavan. They are separated from Krishna. Now is the moment where that separation is supposedly not there because they're physically seeing Krishna. So here's how Srila Prabhupada describes that moment. Because they had been separated from Krishna for so many years, the gopis, having come along with Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, felt intense ecstasy upon seeing Krishna. No one can even imagine how eager were the gopis to see Krishna again. So that's Srila Prabhupada, just capturing this moment, this incredible moment that nobody can even imagine. The eagerness, and remember that was one of the emotions that were highlighted at this time when the gopis are actually going to be seeing Krishna. So this mood of longing, that's what it is. It's a mood of longing to see Krishna. It's expressed also through the time of Akura visiting Vrindavan. Because this is a question the gopis ask Akura. So it's a constant that's there, this longing to see Krishna. This is how the gopis express him to Akura. Oh, saintly one, does Govinda remember us during his conversations with the city woman? Does he ever mention us village girls as he freely my computer moved something. I don't know what the word was supposed to be. As he freely, I guess, converses with them. So does he ever mention us village girls? And this is something they're expressing to Akura. So this longing to see Krishna. Does he recall those nights in the Vrindavan forest, lovely with lotus, jasmine, and the bright moon? As we joined his charming pastimes, he enjoyed with us his beloved girlfriends in the circle of the rasa dance, which resounded with the music of tinkling bells. So they're saying this to Uddhava. But again, just the fact that they're asking, does Krishna remember this? It indicates that great longing that's there. And it's a constant with the gopis, both with Uddhava and with Akura coming to Vrindavan. And this is when they separated from Krishna. So Srila Vishwanath explains that the gopis knew that no place could be as beautiful as Vrindavan. So they're asking if Krishna's remembering that time, the beautiful forest with lotus flowers, him being present with them in the circle of the rasa dance, that there was the sound of the tinkling ankle bells. But what it's actually indicating is that they know that actually no place is as beautiful as Vrindavan. So recently we were on, Subal and I spent a time in Govardhan, and we actually went to visit Uddhava Kund. So Uddhava had been so very close to Krishna that he's actually was sent by Krishna to pacify the gopis. And at Uddhava Kund, it's supposed to be that each and every grass or creeper or I guess small tree that's there is actually Uddhava himself personally present. And when you come to this place, it's the most extraordinarily beautiful, verdant, peaceful place. One can understand that it's just not of this world. So unfortunately, what one constantly sees, whether it's in a temple, whether it's in a place of pilgrimage, this culture of selfies, like in the new Delhi temple in Krishna Balaram Mandir, there's literally a stainless steel sign that's been put up, and you don't expect, common slang to be used on a public sign, but it's used. It says, "No selfies allowed." And the sign is completely ignored. Oh, in Mumbai, I think they do it too, but in Vrindavan, you see it. In New Delhi, you see it in the ISKCON temple. So that culture is seen even in these holy places. One sits down and peacefully tries to absorb the mood of a place of great pilgrimage, and then to one's surprise, one sees that other persons are actually taking photographs of themselves, posing and smiling and putting their own faces into a perfect position for their cell phone. And there's this feeling of shock, actually, that this can be the culture in visiting, such a holy place. So this Uddhava Kund captures completely the mood of a devotee that had close association with the gopis and came to actually understand this great mood of longing and in their separation from Krishna. So a very extraordinarily beautiful place to actually almost palpably touch the mood of Uddhava just by visiting Uddhava Kund. So Uddhava gives insight into the gopis' position by his trying to pacify the gopis, relaying to them the message of Lord Krishna. So that was the mood of Uddhava. He understood they needed to be pacified in this mood of longing. So this is the insight of Uddhava, which gives insight into the gopis' position in their devotion to Lord Krishna. So this is Uddhava addressing the gopis. So you understand how he's understanding the gopis, and you're also getting insight into what the gopis' position is. This is how Uddhava puts it. Certainly, you gopis are all successful and are universally worshipped because you have dedicated your mind in this way to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's an extraordinary statement to make, actually acknowledging that the gopis are universally worshipable because they've dedicated their minds in this way to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And devotional service unto Lord Krishna is attained, if one thinks about it, usually by charity, by strict vows, by austerities, and fire sacrifices, by japa, by study of the Vedic texts, observance of regulative principles, and indeed by performing many other auspicious practices. Like in Vrindavan, in Govardhan in particular, because we spent some time there, on our second morning there, we emerged, like just prior to 8 o'clock. There was a stream of sadhus. I mean, it's unbelievable. So here are persons that are cultivating devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this idea of how you actually are attaining that kind of close devotional service to the Supreme Lord, performing austerities. The stream of sadhus, like, it came to my mind in Manhattan on 42nd Street, like when it's the rush hour. You just see thousands of people pouring out of office buildings, and the streets, particularly 42nd Street, is completely filled with bodies. Now, this is on the Parikram path in Vrindavan, a stream of sadhus, one after the other, carrying their little container, stainless steel container that will have their morning breakfast, and dressed in saffron, walking barefoot, very simple, and just streams of them going down the Govardhan path, streams of them. So, when one reads the text here, it might sound like, something distant. There's strict vows, there's austerities being practiced. That's how you get a devotion to Lord Krishna. But if you stand in Govardhan on the Parikram path early in the morning, you see streams of sadhus performing just those kind of austerities. Now, the process that's described follows the particular recommendations that are given there. So, donations that are given to the Lord. So, if you're on performing, going on the Parikram path, or if you're just visiting the sacred places in Govardhan or Vrindavan, naturally one gives donations wherever one goes. So this is part of the process that's described for cultivating this devotion to the Supreme Lord, giving donation, making firm vows, vrata, such as observing Ekadasi. There's also a decision one makes to perform tapa. One renounces sense gratification for Krishna's sake. So we would see sometimes a sadhu would be lying on bare ground, just resting in Govardhan, and it's bare ground. So clearly there's been some sort of austerity that's been undertaken, some renouncing of sense gratification. So it's not that there's a nice mat that's been put out, something, that cushions one from the hard earth. Not at all, just flat on the earth. So one does those kind of austerities for Krishna's sake. And there's fire sacrifices that are dedicated to Vishnu. That's another means to cultivate this kind of devotion to Lord Krishna, or even chanting one's japa privately. So in the last 2 weeks before coming here, we were in Radhapachasarati temple in New Delhi, the east of Kailash temple. Apparently there's 25 ISKCON temples in New Delhi, which I did not know until I went there. So in this particular temple, it seems that Gopal Krishna Maharaj had really built up the whole temple. So coming in the morning to attend the morning program with 4 sets of deities and a large open area, there would be something like maybe 50 yellow-clad young in training devotees. There'd be maybe another 15 saffron-clad serious brahmacharis. There would be a section of householder devotees or white-clad devotees, maybe 30 of them. And then there's a small section of ladies, usually delegated to a corner of the temple room. And as soon as it was time to greet the deities and the morning prayer to Lord Chaitanya would begin, all these young aspirant devotees in training, clad in yellow, would have synchronized, and that included the saffron-clad serious brahmacharis. There would be synchronized dancing. So all of them would take the right 2 steps, and it would be 2 hand claps. And then the next time on taking the 2 steps forward and back, there would be the raising of the 2 arms. And then on the next one of the 2 steps being taken forward, there would be 2 hand claps in synchronized, a total of, 70 persons in synchronized motion in the temple room greeting the deities. So now you could also describe that as a kind of austerity that's been done. So sense gratification may be, you just sort of linger and you just hear things, or, you just let your mouth move. But actually undertaking to, in a synchronized way, move together, raise the arms together or clap together, 70 people. It's quite extraordinary. So that's another form of austerity undertaken for the sake of Lord Krishna. So Uddhava, returning to him, he pacifies the gopis. So this is looking at this mood of longing that the gopis had and how Krishna had sent two persons to try and soothe their hearts. And he gives further insight into the gopis' position of devotion. And this is what Uddhava says to them. By your great fortune, you have left your sons, husbands, bodily comforts, relatives, and homes in favor of the supreme male who is known as Lord Krishna. He puts it blankly. Now, the gopis remained in Vrindavan and they continued living in their homes with their families. So it's not that they literally left their relatives and homes in favor of the supreme male, Lord Krishna, as Uddhava puts it. But unlike ordinary people, they renounced that egotistical sense of possessiveness of their sons, their husbands, etc. And this is explained, there's a BBT purport that explains this about the gopis. They never tried to enjoy them, meaning their sons, husbands, etc., but rather gave their whole heart and mind to the Supreme Lord, as recommended in the scriptures. So that's the particular extraordinary quality of the devotees. Externally, it appears, a young woman living in their homes with their families in this beautiful Vrindavan. But in actual fact, they don't have that sense of possessiveness of their homes, their relatives, etc. Their mind is completely given to the Supreme Lord. And the result of this, it's also given by Uddhava when he's pacifying the gopis. This is what he says to them. You have rightfully claimed the privilege of unalloyed love for the transcendental Lord. So he sees them as they actually have this right to have this unconditional love for the Supreme Lord because they've given their hearts in the way that they have. And he adds too, O most glorious gopis, indeed, by exhibiting your love for Krishna in separation from him, you have shown me great mercy. So the gopis, in fact, they actually show the whole world the joy of love of Godhead. And so they must bestow their mercy on everyone just by hearing about them and understanding their mood, this mood of longing. It's actually a blessing upon us and they're bestowing their mercy on us that we actually getting to hear something of their great devotion to Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna's message that was delivered by Uddhava to the gopis is of importance. And this is what Krishna says to them. You are never actually separated from me. For I am the soul of all creation, just as the elements of nature, ether, air, water, fire, are present in every living thing. So I am present within everyone's mind, life, air, and senses, and also within the physical elements and the modes of nature. So Krishna is even pointing to the fact that there's no possibility of separation from him. He's present in the life airs. He's present in the makeup of the body, the 5 material elements. He's present there. He's present in the senses and in the mode of nature, as he puts it. So Lord Krishna, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, was reciprocating with the gopis' love for him. So he did it through Uddhava. In this particular case, I'm reading how this was the message that Lord Krishna had Uddhava deliver. And he's actually, how he's able to reciprocate with the gopis' love, he's telling them that he's present with them, not only as the soul of creation, but also as their special lover. So he includes that in his particular statement by saying, you can never be separated from me. So it indicates that he's their special lover. And Lord Krishna was not actually absent because he was always in the hearts and minds of the gopis. So in fact, Lord Krishna separated himself from the gopis to intensify their love for him. That was the reason why he physically was not there. It intensified the love. And to bless other devotees by revealing to them the intensity of the love of the gopis. So we're receiving a great blessing just by hearing about the gopis. And that's one of the purposes that Krishna had in being separate from them and going to Mathura. So today, the particular section that we're looking at is, as soon as Krishna became visible to them, they took him inside their hearts, through their eyes, and embraced him to their full content. So that's actually what took place. Now they've finally seen Krishna present. So what did they do? They're well trained. They actually take in the vision through their eyes, place it in their hearts, and they're embracing Krishna within their hearts. So even though they were embracing Krishna mentally, they became so ecstatic and overwhelmed with joy that for the time being, they completely forgot themselves. So this was the effect. And it's something that is described by Srila Prabhupada again, that they completely forgot themselves. And Srila Prabhupada adds this, and this is from Krishna book, the ecstatic trance they achieved simply by mentally embracing Krishna is impossible to achieve, even for great yogis who are constantly engaged in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we were seeing some of these yogis, as I was saying to you, particularly in Govardhan, in fact, streams of them. But notice this point. It's impossible to achieve even for great yogis who are constantly meditating on the Supreme Personality of God, the particular ecstatic trance of the gopis. It's completely unique to them. And Krishna could understand that the gopis were wrapped in attention on embracing him from within. So, and it's described by Srila Vishwanath. So here's a different way that Srila Vishwanath describes this particular moment is finally that separation should be at an end. And this is how it's playing itself out when they've physically seen Krishna. Pulling Krishna towards themselves with their glances, the gopis took him within their hearts through the doorway of their eyes. They wrapped him in a tight embrace and then attained a rare state of mahabhav, ecstatic absorption in Krishna. Overwhelmed with a sense of oneness with Krishna, the gopis then made statements like this: Krishna aham, and my computer's gone wacko here, trying to turn Sanskrit into English, so I've lost it. But the English translation is, I am Krishna. Just see how gracefully I move. So this is the result of the gopis taking Krishna within their hearts. They almost became one with Krishna in some sense. So they started making statements like, just see how gracefully I move, as though they're Krishna. So this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So this is just an attempt to expand on today's verse. If there's something that's come to mind or some query, some expansion, please feel free.
Thanks, Krsnarcana. Was just reflecting on this last part that you made in terms, and you also mentioned in the beginning that it was highlighted the special position of the gopis, Srila Sukadev Goswami, Uddhava. and that is something that is they're in their own category, basically. You mentioned, and just as you highlighted too, that even for great yogis, it's impossible to to approach that stage or that position, and it makes it even more extraordinary that the process that we're receiving from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a process of following the footsteps of the of the gopis of Vrindavan. You know, Lord Chaitanya declares that the the dances of the highest worship is the worship of the damsels of Vrindavan, and therefore our identity, as described by Lord Chaitanya, is that we are the servants of the servants of the servants of uh, the gopis of Vrindavan. So, and the process that is given to us is the process of separation. The mood that Lord Chaitanya has give to the whole world is that same process that is being appreciated, about that just you quoted Srila Prabhupada saying that's a unique uh, quality that separates them from everybody else, is that love in separation. And that's exactly what we're receiving from Lord Chaitanya. And is in the passions of Lord Chaitanya, this is just so strongly and so um, incredibly displayed. I'm listening to the Antya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which Lord Chaitanya fully displays the mood of Srimati Radharani in separation from Krishna. And the ecstasy that he enters every time he sees the deities, and the ecstasy that he goes also within the mind, just anything. Like I was listening recently to Lord Chaitanya seeing the ocean and then thinking the ocean is a Jamuna, and then running towards the ocean and jumping into the ocean, thinking that he's jumping into the Jamuna to be able to see Krishna doing his pastimes with the gopis in the Jamuna. And he enters into the ecstasy of that moment and loses complete consciousness. So, so you explain how how the purpose of Krishna was to bring to almost like showcase this quality of the gopis for the whole world, for the benefit of the whole world. Uddhava understood it, and Uddhava became, you know, a blade of grass, a brush, and you know, a plant there to receive the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis, to receive that mercy, that mood. And that's the process that we've been given by Lord Chaitanya, which is quite, you know, mind-boggling. Of course, just reflecting on myself, how far, you know, I'm to understand. You know, you're so caught in the process of Vaidhi Bhakti, the rules and regulations, trying to really maintain that, to perform, you know, the austerities to worship Krishna, and to all the rules and regulations to bring about at least the capacity to be able to start to enter into that mood, a spontaneous mood of love, in which you can actually start to follow in the footsteps of the Brijavasis. So anyway, this is just reflecting on what you know brought up today. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the reflection. I like hearing it. Thank you. Um, yes, well, you know, this idea that one is so far from, uh, I guess, absorbing that mood it's not actually true because, the breakdown of performing austerities through japa or studying the scriptures, um, or hearing about the gopis, it's all part of the process. So actually, one is already moving in the right direction. So one can't really say one is separated from it. One's actually in that very process of learning how to take Krishna within one's heart and worship him within the heart. So it's actually a beautiful process. Um, I mean, austerities are actually wonderful. So, yeah, it's it means that all of it is accessible to us because we are all doing the correct things, moving in that path. So it's within one's grasp, so to speak, even if one thinks it's distant because of the method that's there, and we're engaging in those austerities and those practices. So it's all rather wonderful. So just a comment. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you so very much for your kind attention. It's extremely lovely to be with devotees in our rather sparsely populated weekly temple. But thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.